expand this, make this a little bit bigger here. I don't know why this is so small. Well, we're living the dream, aren't we, you guys? Living the dream. So crazy. All right, let's chat about this. It's crazy. Last night, I'll show you what we did in our masterclass. We had this final little celebration. Let's see what the headline was. Oh yeah. Final celebration. You know, it's absolutely crazy what we had to go through for the Canada H-1B work permit. And I think a lot of you are very familiar with what was involved yesterday in trying to get the application submitted. Everything from not knowing where it was going to be posted, at least which portal we were going to go through. People didn't know when it was going to open up. As you've followed probably some of my Twitter action, I was a little bit critical of our dear friend here, the minister, and his department. And I think in fairness, it was all justified. We had a process where there were 10,000 spots, which suggested to people that it was going to be a mad race to file. And what does that mean? People are going to be queued up. They're going to be waiting. They're going to be ready. And there were no instructions given. And in fact, you know, and you guys have watched the channel, you've followed what I've said. I told you that it was going to be the IRCC portal. I told you guys that it was going to be right here. Let's adjust the screen so everybody can see it better. It's been crazy. I had 6 consultations this morning before I went live. And Minister, I'll just get you to step aside for a second. I did actually invite the minister to come join me here and to chat. Actually, I'll show you this. I'll slide over here to the main screen, my big one. I prepared this one and I dropped this one for the minister. And I said, yeah, an invitation. Come join me. I'm not sure if the minister will take me up on it. I did tell him that I would be kind. And well, anyways, it is what it is. So we knew that the IRCC portal, or at least all the signs pointed to it. And as you followed me and as I slowly tried to release information, but understand, you guys, I had a client. I had an important client, one that I took with his family, with his wife and 2 wonderful, cute little daughters. And we needed to make sure we had this thing submitted. So I had no time to sit there tweeting out where the portal was going to be or anything. So as soon as I saw it, I sent out a tweet where it was and you know, to let people know. And I think this was at about maybe 4:25, 4:30 a.m. Mountain Time. So I got up at 3:45 a.m. to get the application submitted with my client. And that's, you know, that in and of itself is just insane, because obviously, as we shift over here to the other information that we now have, this one right here wasn't released. And if we go back to the main screen here, this instructions here weren't there. And of course, you know, the temporary public policy now comes out now. Well, all of this backgrounder and all, you know, all of this stuff, like, it's like, understand, July 16th, like, I really don't believe, like, I'd be shocked if it's not full. And maybe it is, but I can tell you, I had, how many did I have? I had, I think, about 150 people that went through my DIY course. And that's kind of reflective of the overall numbers. Like for the TR to PR pathway, I had about 500 people, but it was, there were 90,000 people. So this is an indicator that, you know, I have to assume that the portal filled up, but right now we don't even have a tracker. So it's been quite the experience. We'll look at this generally. We'll take a quick look at this and I'll answer questions. And I know the biggest issue is now people are freaking out because they've submitted documents that maybe are not correct, or they weren't sure. Some of the aspects of this just wasn't clarified. And so I feel for all of you. And you know, the one thing that I take unbelievable pride in is that the people who chose to subscribe to the course, and you can think about it what you want, I prepared them with every ounce of knowledge that I had about filing Canadian work permits. And those people were ready. And so even before the instructions came out, and we were freaking out a little bit because the instructions on providing evidence that you reside in the US was nowhere included in any of the instructions in the document checklist that was generated once you completed all the information in the IRCC portal. It wasn't there. And so after, I was like, oh my goodness, maybe we jumped the gun. Maybe we went too quick. Maybe I missed something. I didn't miss anything. There was nothing requesting specific information on proof that you resided. Now, the TR to PR pathway specifically asked for that, right? Now, we talked about this in our group, and one of the things that we realized is they did ask for proof of funds. And for most of the people, they included 4 months of bank statements. And that is a pretty significant evidence that you reside in the US. So if you included your bank statements, I think you've got a wonderfully supported and evidentiary position to say, I live in the US. Your bank statement, when you look at it, it shows where the transactions occurred. And sure, it's one indicator, but of all the different things that you can show, none of them are a clear, absolute, concrete proof. I guess other than maybe an I-94 or something like that, that you live in the US, but maybe even that isn't a clear indicator. Regardless, there's lots of opportunities to fix and correct, and we're going to talk about that. But yeah, I'm so grateful for all those people that were in the course. They were just exceptional. Let's see who we've got here. Oh, this Facebook user says you're interested. Well, the reality is I'm not sure if it's even closed. You guys can tell me what your experience is, and I love to hear your feedback. That was the power of the group, is that everybody was actively looking and searching for answers and guidance. And I would just keep directing people in the right direction. They'd start to veer this way, and I'd say, oh no, come back this way. No, it's not here. Someone said this. No, it's here. And consistently, I said it was going to be the IRCC portal. All of the signs pointed to it, the closure of the Kuwait visa, all those kinds of things. But I just don't understand. I just don't. Like, I don't know what to say. Like the minister, boy, I wish he would come and join me. And so you could at least explain to all these H-1B visa holders that Canada is actually an awesome place to come and to live. And for all these reasons. And no, you're not going to earn as much money working in Canada as you are in the US. But you are a temporary servant of the companies you work for. In Canada, they're saying come on an open work permit. And there are pathways to permanent residence that do not exist in the US. And yes, there's some people that have golden pathways that are just wonderful. But the vast majority of individuals are looking for a lifetime before they're going to get permanent residence. They're always going to be in a state of limbo. It's very similar to working in the UAE or in Saudi Arabia, where your whole life there, you might work for 20 years. And once your job's gone, your status there is done. And that's right now what it's like in the US. So Minister, I recommend that you come and join me on this invitation that I've sent you. I'll just pull this up again. It was kind of funny. I tweeted this to him, and I know he doesn't check his Twitter feed. I'm sure he doesn't look at his Twitter. I'm sure he's got staffers. So Minister staffers, I welcome you to come join me. And we've had discussions before when I was the national chair of the Canadian Bar Association, and you know that I will be kind. I'm not out to embarrass anyone. You're doing the best job that you can in the circumstances. But the reality is, as I look through all of this, it was so horribly handled, this whole process. So let's give a couple shout outs here and see what people have to say. Niraj, I couldn't attend. Oh, Niraj, I couldn't attend yesterday evening YouTube party for the H-1B work permit group. Yeah, we had a fun time, my friend. Thanks for the help again. My application went through yesterday. Already got the biometrics evaluation, but my spouse applied, did not yet get the biometric evaluation, and that's common. We're seeing inconsistencies in that, Niraj, and that's the one beauty of what I do. I see all the patterns because I have not only the hundreds of people that subscribe to the course, and heck, if it's still open, the course is still open, but now it's refined to what you really need. Whereas we worked the last 2 weeks on constant masterclasses talking about what it could be, potentially setting things up. And yes, let's see what else we've got here. Ishan says, under the application status tracker, I'm seeing destination mentioned as Ontario, NES, Ontario. Will this work permit issue only be of the province which we chose while applying? No, it should be a completely open work permit. It should not restrict you to any location. And then other people are asking, I didn't get my biometrics yet. I applied at 2:30 p.m. yesterday. We were finished before 6 a.m. Mountain Time. So that would be 8, I guess, 8 a.m. Yeah, we were finished. And I had a client, a spouse, and 2 children, and it took me 3 times as long. But many of the people in my group, they were done early. And yeah, I told them, look, you guys have to get up. And they were rewarded because of it. Let's see. Nice to see you. Wish you the best. My name is Marwan. Good to see you, Marwan. Thanks for connecting in. We've got Godson who's tuning in from Ghana. Hello. Good to see you. And I know there's a lot of different questions and yeah, that are piling in here, and I'm not going to be able to answer everybody, but let's just try to hit some high points. So I'm gonna just teach generally. This is what I do, right? I am a former high school teacher, and this is what I do. Let me share a few things with you just so that we can get a very clear picture, because I know a lot of the questions are going to be the same. So right from the get-go, if we go here to the actual initial process, and I've shared this in my lives, you can see here that people said this is only going to be tech, right? It's only going to be tech because, and the reason they said it was tech, and I repeatedly said it's not just going to be isolated to tech. Let me just pull this up here if I can find. I've got so many things. You'd be just shocked at how much time I've spent contemplating the various permutations of what ultimately this would look like. So let me just slide back here to this page. So right here, people saw this, and is it up now? I'm just wondering. It is. See, now it's here. Okay, now it's here. Well, my goodness, like I have to assume that if it's still here and you can still get started and you can still go through this process, like this is exactly where I said you would be able to find it right here on this H-1B. Let's backtrack here. I've got too many windows going here, but this is one of the places that I said you could go to find it. And I shared this, and I sure hope people who watched my channels were aware of this, because I'm assuming at some point, I never checked, because the only place I was checking was to see when the IRCC portal was going to open up. That was the very first place. As soon as it did, we scoured it quickly to see if there was a spot right where I knew it was going to be, right in the instructions, and there it was. And so we got started. But you can see now, people thought because it was on this, that was all about, tech talent, that somehow this was going to be an indicator that only tech would be eligible. And so there was a lot of misinformation that was being spread, that this was all going to be tech and it wasn't going to be open to all H-1B specialty occupation holders. But as we go through this process here, you guys, you can see that it's valid for anyone. It's not just tech. It's open, like we talked about. And here's a couple other clarifying things. So the passport expires. If it expires in less than 3 years, that's all you're going to get. You can't get an extension with this initiative. But understand, Canada is not like the US. Canada has pathways for you depending upon the situation you're in Canada. And so, and this I find kind of comical, because clearly this, like, I'm just shocked that it's not full. Like if we go here, let's just go in here. I'm just going to log in again and see with my little test account here. Let's just see if it's still here. So it's still here. So Minister, how in the world are you checking for 10,000 applications? And what I can't figure out, if as we go through this process and we say, yep, it's me, I'm gonna do you, and this is another thing, do you apply as an individual or family? I told all of my students, include your family. You're gonna get through. I've taught you, you're gonna be faster than everybody else, because no one has a clue what to do except, if they haven't had a representative that they've hired to help them. And so we'll just put a little holder there. So let's see if it's still eligible, if it's still here. So it pulls this up. I go to continue. And what do I see right here? So this is what was added, the work permit right here. And I clicked on it and I was like, there it is. So open work permit holder. If you're the principal applicant, if you're the spouse, then you're going to go down this path. And according to immigration, I don't know how they're going to close this off, because if you filed your application and you didn't include your spouse, it says that you can go back in and include your spouse as a dependent. And I'm just really curious, and you do it within the account of the principal applicant who first applied and got approved. So, and then someone is asking, if you choose Alberta, is it only going to give you Alberta? You guys better be choosing Alberta. It's the best province in the country. And then UCI, if you've applied for a visa in the past to Canada, then it's really important that you put your UCI in here so that they can link everything together. But you can see it's still here. And then if I go back into here, I'm actually going to exit this, and let's see one other thing while we're at this. I'm just going to log back in. I'm going to sign out here, and then I'm going to go back in, and hopefully this stuff will answer a lot of questions for people. That's why I'm doing it, because I know I'm not going to be able to get to every single person's question. There's just too many of you. Oh, let's make sure don't have my caps lock on. Okay, so I'm going to log in here, and then I have done a few tests. So I'm going to go to a couple other pages here till I get to mine. Let's see here. There's some samples. Oh, dang it. I can't believe I have so many windows here of stuff. Okay, I think this is my winner. I think it is. Oh man, I've got a lot here. Maybe it's this one. Let's see. One of these will allow me to go through to the end. Nope, not this one. Just bear with me here. I've got a bunch of samples that I've created. This is one. I missed page 5, 1 of 5, 2. Oh, that's 5 of 6. Just give me 1 second here, you guys. I want to try to find the one where I have my, that I've got queued up. Wow, there's so many. I think it's maybe here. Okay, I'm just going to work off of this one. I think this is a winner. Come on, show me the summary. Let's see. Nope. Okay, I'm going to leave it because I'm going to be spending my whole day looking. I wanted to see if the payment portal still worked. That's where I was going with that. Okay, so back to the discussion here, just quickly, just to cover a couple extra things here. So one of the things that we noticed right away when you go to who can apply, have a valid H-1B visa. What does this mean? There are a number of people that went OPT to H-1B in the US without ever needing an actual H-1B visa stamped in their passport. So there became a lot of confusion. Is that good enough? And if you look right now at the policy right here, it talks very generally about holds an H-1B specialty occupation category visa issued by the US that was valid at the time the work permit application was submitted. Okay, so you have to have a valid H-1B. But what does that mean? Is that the I-797? Is that the H-1B visa? And I think arguably anyone who submitted an application that is in valid H-1B status working in the US, whether you have an H-1B visa or not, I think arguably you have a shot at this. And so currently living in the US is another requirement. And who can you bring? Obviously it's spouse and your common law partner or dependent children. And then if we jump one more to how to apply, you'll see here that they mention a copy of your H-1B visa. Well, okay, this is fine, but there's many people who are in valid H-1B status in the US that may not have the actual visa. So there's uncertainty about what this means. And then the form I-797 notice of action here. Some people, once again, like most, I think should have that. And this does confirm your H-1B application was approved. But then this is the wild card right here. Proof that you live in the US, such as these things, okay? And so what we're relying on, at least because we filed it before there was any mention of proving this, any document that proves you live in the US, we've used bank statements that were already required to be uploaded as clear proof, but I indicated to everyone, and I'm indicating to all of you folks out there too, whoops, not this one. I got so many things going on my screen. This is where you're gonna go to the IRCC web form, and I know IRCC is going to hate this, but what else do you do when you don't have instructions? Go here, and if you're missing anything that I talk about today, you're going to go here, you're going to select the category, which is temporary residence applied online. Then you're going to select work permit, and then you're going to go explain what you need to explain here. Family name, given name, email, date of birth, country of birth, client ID. You should have one on your approval, on the acknowledgement of receipt letter. Then your application number is going to be the W number. This is typically going to be a 10-digit number. And then you're the applicant, so it will pull the information you put down into here as well. And then you're going to click I agree, and then you're going to continue. And after you click continue, you'll have the opportunity to upload documents. 3.5 megabytes max, you can upload 2. So that means one document could be 2 megabytes and the other could be maybe 1.5. Okay, so that's just at a very high level. That's how you deal with anything that's missing. So in here, we had a lot of issue with wondering, okay, us that had it submitted within like the first, whatever, 30 minutes or 45 minutes of the portal opening up, if we didn't specifically address this, well, do we submit a web form? I told them to all submit web forms. So if you have a Form I-94, include it. If you have a utility bill, include it. Very few had, income tax reports like this, but if you have a driver's license in the state, include it. So all of those things we directed people to include. But at the end of the day, there was no specific field that said proof of residence in the US, like they've done repeatedly for other countries. And I think that was a huge oversight. Personally, I think when they developed the web form, and this is what the IRCC portal, this is an issue I think that we see with them all the time. Let me go up here to the IRCC portal as well here. Within the IRCC portal, it's designed for other purposes, and then they try to repurpose it, right? And I think if they went through the process of creating the work permit section, that if that was important, that they should have had a spot for it, but they didn't. So I don't think anyone's application can be refused. And, and I will bring this up to the minister. You guys have got to be very, very generous with this because your instructions came really late. And I know you never anticipated myself guessing exactly where it was going to be because you didn't share any information. But I was talking with you throughout the whole pandemic. As a national chair and on the national executive of the CBA, I got to see things that no one else saw. I got technical briefings on the TR to PR pathway with the heads of the permanent resident group, the economic group. I knew how you guys operated. We created a free course that walked people through the whole process for Kuwait, right from the beginning that we offered to all of them. There were 1 million that went through. We offered tons of pro bono assistance to them. So do you think I wasn't aware of how this portal functioned? Now, most representatives know because they didn't use the IRCC portal. And this portal is used for people, and you deliberately, in the early days, cut out representatives from having any involvement with this. You've made it more difficult for them to connect to this process to submit visitor visas and study permits. But Mark Holthe and his team, well, we operate differently. We support our clients. And so I had just tons of intel. I had a very good idea where it was going to be. So after all of that, we're in a world right now where many people are going to have missing things from their applications. They're going to have accidentally typed things in improperly. Whenever you're rushed, you miss things, right? We had 3 people looking at our client's application all at the same time through a Zoom screen share to make sure nothing was being missed. And even then, we had included a visa number that we think might have been not the one IRCC was looking for, but we had no instructions. There was no instructions on which number and how to get it. Okay, after you apply, you can see here, did you see how that changed from 0 to 2 months to 6 weeks? What are some of the delays? Let me just move the minister out of the way. Sorry, minister, you're just kind of blocking the screen a bit. So here, processing times, they say 6 weeks. Many of you will need biometrics, and that will be one of the choke points. So if you haven't yet booked your biometric appointment and you've got your letter, then do it. Go book it, okay? So that will affect the processing. But those of you who have temporary resident visas already, who've already completed biometrics for that, you can see your work permits being approved in literally days, maybe a week. I don't think the minister's just going to hold off on working on these until the biometrics start to come in. All those officers processing that 1 million Kuwait visa are going to be slid over. Maybe I'm wrong, but where else are they going to go? They've got expertise with the portal doing 1 million applications. They're going to whip through these suckers like nothing. And so how we process your application, they'll check to make sure all necessary documents, including biometrics, are there. If it's incomplete, we'll refuse your application without processing it. That's code for we are going to be cruel and heartless. And if you're missing something or you get something wrong that we feel you need, we're just going to mark it as incomplete and refuse it without processing. So there's someone at the beginning, at the front end, looking for certain documents. And I'll tell you, and this is where I'm going to, you guys are a big cohort of people. And, if we start seeing patterns of refusals that I feel are just not according to administrative law principles, that are, where they're refusing for things that you did not know you needed to provide, and they cannot rely, minister, you guys cannot rely on this policy here or these instructions after the fact when many people submitted their applications before this stuff was released. And I've got video confirmation of exactly what we were experiencing. So I'd strongly, strongly encourage you and your department to be kind, to be gentle with these people, because you put them in this situation. So you can see here, once they'll check to see if you qualify for the work permit, that you're not a criminal or an Al-Qaeda warrior from Afghanistan or wherever, the reality is you're going to pass that security. It's highly unlikely you're going to have an interview. It's possible they could send you a request for more information. And remember, if IRCC sends you a request, built into this portal is its own place to upload documents. And you'll see that on kind of your landing page after you go into the section where it shows that you've got your application submitted. There's a little button up top, that allows you to upload documents. So it's not through the web form that you're going to be submitting anything that IRCC asks. But if you notice that you've made a mistake, then you're absolutely going to use this right here. Oh, look at that. I guess I've had a little bit more traffic to my site over the last little bit. Nothing like 1,000% traffic increase. This is the one you're going to use for unsolicited. Okay. So anything else I can tell you? You can try to connect the application tracker. I have not attempted this with my client. I'll be honest, you guys, these things are still beta, like 1.0. And often it can be really frustrating because you have trouble connecting it and then it doesn't have a lot of meaningful information. I know the minister and the government is working on making this better, but like I've been off the executive now since September of last year. And when I was as chair, millions of dollars were put into making this better, enhancing it, modernizing the system as a result of the pandemic. Wow, like it's taking a long time. Okay, now here's something I want to point out. Okay, if your work permit is approved, you'll get the approval letter that says you're allowed to work. This is the letter called the Port of Entry Letter of Introduction. You should bring the letter with you when you travel to Canada, present it at the Port of Entry, and then it's there that you get your actual work permit. It's kind of like in the US with your H-1B visa and then the I-797. And if I get the numbers wrong, forgive me, I'm not a US immigration attorney. You'll only get your work permit on the day you arrive, and it'll show how long and the conditions that you can work, which are going to be pretty open. Okay. Now I want to just jump back one section because there's a lot of you that have submitted your application as an individual because you were terrified that it would take too long. And it did. It took me 3 times as long to submit it for the family than if there was just one person. When you scroll down here, these instructions that they provided, I had laid all this out in my course for all of my students, explaining to them exactly how they do it before this was even opened up and launched. So they were all prepared and there were no surprises. The only thing that was the surprise was the proof that you reside in the US. And so anyways, you go through here and then you start your application, which then takes you to that key, like where you can get your invitation code to then log in. Now I want to show you this here. This is an important factor that maybe it's kind of dropped on here as an add-on. But those of you who submitted your application as individuals, if your family member holding the H-1B has already applied, you can still apply too. I advised all of my students, although not all followed my instructions because they were just terrified and afraid that they would lose their spot if they didn't apply as an individual. If you applied as an individual and you didn't include your spouse and children, at least as accompanying within your application, then you can still have them apply. Now it says you have to wait until they've received their Port of Entry Letter of Introduction. That's the one that they were referring to up here, that letter. Well, it's actually on the next page. You can then apply using their account and the same steps as above. So their account is the one that they use to log in to here. And then the question is, if you log in through this process, is it going to still appear the same? And Minister, I'd love to hear how you're going to track this. Is this just going to disappear? Is this link right here? This is the issue. I can't see how they're going to notify people, because when you start this application and you choose, do you want to apply for more than one person at this time? For example, you want to submit an application by yourself plus your spouse, then you're going to go yes. But if it's just a spouse and you go, no, I'm just applying by myself, you can see here, if you say work permit and he says, I want to apply as a spouse, it gives an error here. And the error is, it says, as part of this application, you must apply with someone who holds a valid H-1B visa. So this is even confusing to people. What does that mean? I can't include my spouse, right? And so, so you've got an error here. So how are you going to have them do this, Minister? Is there some other method? Are they going to have to check off an open work permit, or is it going to be in the section of the approval somewhere where you can click a button to add a spouse? Like or are they going to push people through what many of my colleagues thought it was going to go through the IRCC Secure account? And I'll be honest, because of the lack of instructions, I spent an unbelievable number of hours setting up the GC account, providing tutorials for all of the forms and everything that they would need just in case it went through the GC key, how to fill them out, how to have them ready, what to validate, what not, all of that. So in that regard, Minister, Um, I'm not terribly happy with this. You could have easily just sent out a few more bits of information. You didn't have to divulge the secret code, so, realistically, the way you laid it out, any fears of some person with a bot going in and changing things really would never have borne fruit. You could have easily said it's going to be in the IRCC secure account, and you could have still created the separate section with the questions. You didn't have to wait till the very day. I don't understand. It's just cruel for people. Okay. I think we've covered everything that I really wanted to cover at this stage. So let's just let the questions fly. I know there's a lot of people here, and I'm going to be skipping through a lot of questions. It's just me here. I'm not, I don't have some other person screening the questions. It's all just as we fly. So I'll try to pick as many as I can. And I know that some of you will, I'm going to be skipping through your questions. If you have, and I think maybe what I'm going to do now is, because there's so many that has passed by, I want you to repost your question and put a Q in front of it. Often in these channels, there's a lot of messaging back and forth with people answering questions or like just talking amongst themselves. And then I have to sift through all of them. So if you can put a Q in front of it, I will now start taking questions. I'm just going to skim through the posts that are already here to see if anything that there is that I want to pull up. Let's see here. And these questions really need to be focused on the Canada H-1B. Okay, guys? Okay, Hardy, I'll hit you because you've got a question right there, my friend. He says, when will we know if the process was accepted? Well, if you went in and you were able to pay the fee and it generated the acknowledgement of a receipt, then you've got one of the 10,000 spots, full stop, okay? I submitted mostly my information about the bachelor's for education history. How far back do we have to go? High school? Don't stress over that. Bachelor's is good enough. Understand this situation with how they set it up, bachelor's is sufficient. Okay. Yeah, Ravi, visa in my passport was expired in 2019 and I only have valid status H-1B. Well, Ravi, this is the situation many people are in. And this is why I think the minister has to be generous, because many people, let's say you went OPT to H-1B, in that case, maybe you never had a need to actually use the visa because you never left the US. Others came on their H-1B, on their visa, entered, which allowed them to board the plane and come to the US, and then have just used internal extensions. Minister, it's the same as us. When we have someone who comes on a work permit, they're granted the visa and then they get their work permit at the port of entry. They're in Canada. That work permit dictates how long they can stay. If they extend that work permit, minister, then the visitor visa, the entry visa in their passport, if it expires, it doesn't matter. So in your application, you suggested that entry visa also needed to be valid. That's really what you were suggesting. And I think that's not the case. And even based on your own policy, if we read the policy here, I would strongly argue that when it says holds an H-1B specialty occupation category visa issued by the US that was valid at the time the work permit application referred to was submitted. So I think this is general enough to include those who don't have actual entry visas to allow them to travel back and forth. That's my submission. Okay, let's see here. We've got a bunch of people, so I'm going to try to skip through the ones that have already been answered. Yes, we'll pull this up, Hardy. I spent 3 hours submitting the work history. The portal was quirky and explicitly for date to match. Too bad instructions were vague. Yeah, I know, it's just totally confusing. It was crazy. Okay. Tan says, my wife submitted her application. Now I'm trying to apply for myself, but it's not letting me, saying as part of this application, you must apply. Yeah, you can't do it yet. You've seen the instructions. You can't do that yet. Congratulations, Mark. Submitted it by 1 p.m. Eastern time. That's great. That's awesome. And lots of people. Another thing I want to point out, and I'm going to pull the minister back in. I've invited him. Like I said, I sent his staffers a little tweet. And with this right here, let me just pull it up again. Sorry, I've got so many moving parts here. I sent him a little tweet with this thumbnail image already, an invitation. And I'd love for the minister to come talk about, because I think it's really important, minister, that you share what goes on the inside. Like, as a former immigration officer myself, I have a much better understanding of the challenges that go on within the department when you're trying to process large volumes of applications. And I think it's really important, minister, we'll pull you back up here again. I think it's really important, Minister, that you come on and you talk about some of the challenges, like the real challenges that you guys are experiencing on the inside, so that people maybe will have a little bit more compassion for what's going on. And I'll be kind. Like, I'm not here to embarrass you or the department, but I want everybody, including all of these H-1B visa holders, to see that notwithstanding the negative experiences some people are having in Canada, that it's a freaking awesome place to be, a place to move to settle with your family, where you can have stability and security, and you can earn money. Absolutely, you can. Maybe you don't earn as much money potentially, as a tech worker in the US, but what are you getting in return? Healthcare, schools, good education for your kids, a multicultural country that really cares about and respects everyone in their culture, who wants them to come and make ours, the fabric of ours, just that much better. So I would love for you to join me, Minister. Hopefully your staffers pay attention to this and are listening, but I'd love for you to come and join me here on the YouTube channel just to talk about the logistics of this. You went and appeared at the collision conference, and you only had a short period of time to talk, and you had to whip off your high points and then get off the stage. Well, now this is the aftermath. Now I want you to come and tell all of these people why they made the right decision to apply for this work permit. Because especially for the tech folks, when they were trying to complete the activity section, the activity history, it was broken. It was literally broken, even when you did it correctly. And you can imagine the frustration. I wonder how many people just gave up at that stage because they didn't try to figure out some kind of workaround. Even my own client, we had to drop some of the education off and then provide it in a letter of explanation after, just to get it to advance to the next screen. It was so miserable. Like, you see, people have spent just hours trying to get past that one section. All right, let's keep zipping here. Image Magician says, shout out to Mark. You have proved yourself right in everything. The opening time, the portal to apply. I've been following your videos and they have been truly helpful. Thank you. I appreciate that. Let's face it. There are so many people out there there's so many haters out there, that just don't like to see other people succeed or get ahead. And in my world, my industry, it's so full of scuzzy representatives that they really don't know much about immigration. They got through by the skin of their teeth in whatever pathway they came through to become a representative. And their sole priority is scraping away as much money as they can from anyone that's willing to retain them. And as long as they know just a little bit more than you, they're the expert, right? And it's hard for me not to be lumped in with everybody saying, oh my goodness, Mark charged $347 US for admission into his course. He had 150 people that went through. This times this equals this. Oh, he's rolling in the money. And you bet it was an amazing experience for me. And this is the whole model in the future that I feel, because one person, may have charged me X $1,000, whatever it is, to submit their application. And I could help one person out of it at a time. But I was able to help I haven't even looked at how many people ultimately went through, but the number of people that went through is just astounding. And they were all able to benefit together. We truly crowdsourced. There were things that they brought up and suggested to me, like even in our final little meeting last night, I was just really stressing still over what could we have done differently within the checklist to include proof of residence in the US. We talked about it before the portal actually opened up. We talked about that might being a possibility, but there was no confirmation. So I didn't even know at the time of filing if someone who was no longer in the US, if they were actually able to submit an application. Maybe they just left. Maybe they'd left within the 60 days of their layoff in the US. Were they eligible? I didn't know. Minister, you didn't release anything. And but in that course, Patrick, one of the students, man, just awesome people. Awesome people. He said, well, what about our bank statements? Our bank statements show all the transactions that we've done in the US. And I'm like, exactly. You were required to provide proof of funds. And so before the information came out, I told all of them to have at least 4 months of bank statements. And that's what was required. And so that is one huge backup in case there's, massive rejections for not providing some evidence of that you're residing in the US. And the checklist, Minister, did not specifically state that. There was vague references to immigration status, not resident status. So we'll keep going. So Image, you're very welcome. And I know that so many people were able to benefit from the videos, and I tried to share as much general information as I could and even drill down as specific as I could. But yeah, the people in the course were prepared. Okay. Let's see what else here. Oh, this is tough. Okay. SV, you need to get a different payment. Other people have had this issue. Still trying, but no success. Does that mean 10K mark reached? I don't know, SV. Is that the difference? You guys tell me, is the payment portal not going through where they've cut it off? What a waste. It takes hours and hours, Minister, to complete this stuff, to go in through this portal and to submit an application like this. Even for me, with my client being prepped with a separate Word document that had the answers to a lot of the questions that we could just copy and paste. Another pro tip I shared with you guys. Even when we did that, this still takes, the way you've structured it with these fields that you can't jump through. Like it could take the average person hours, and then to go through all that process and then not their fee payment not go through. Is that where you're cutting it off? Man, Minister, like you guys can do better than that. Please post somewhere the cap. Okay. So if someone knows and has seen somewhere that they've placed a running total of how many applications have been received, like they did with the TR to PR pathway, please let me know, because I haven't found it yet. And just post in the comments right now, and I'll take a quick look and then I'll jump back. All right. So I'm trying to be as general as I can, as helpful. I'm not going to be able to answer everybody's question, but hopefully I'm hitting on the ones that you have. Okay, we covered that. Grishma, that's so kind. Thank you. Even watching your live videos helped me to file without any hassles. That was my goal, right? That was my goal. And lots of people are asking, I didn't submit this, I didn't submit that. I'm worried now. What if is my application going to get rejected? I'm directing all of you back to use the IRCC web form to upload any documents or any information that was mistaken or wrong. Remember, when you get your application approved, one huge positive, and I got to bring the minister back on here. Minister, thank you so much for making sure in this portal that there was a summary sheet, a client summary sheet with all of the answers. Go, you guys, and scour through that and make sure that there wasn't something that you didn't type in right. All the other applications, we don't have that, but this one we do. So thank you. At least people can see an idea of what was submitted. That was an advancement, and I really, really appreciate that. Okay, so if you're missing anything, go to the actual the IRCC web form, fill it out, and provide any information. And if you need to prepare a separate letter of explanation, because this only has 1,500 characters, so just prepare a separate letter, write out whatever you need to, and then bundle it together. Remember, you can only upload a maximum of 2 documents, and the maximum file size when you upload them is 3.5 megabytes with a maximum size per file of 2. So it can't be any larger than 2 megabytes each individual file, but collectively 3.5, which is just bizarre. Like, why not just make it 4? Okay, anyways. And that was another thing that I told people when they were getting ready to submit their applications to this portal. You need to make sure that it wasn't any larger than 2 megabytes. So that's what we had talked about. And once again, I learned so much from the students going through it. You guys are all smart, intelligent, capable. And everything that I've done has been built on the foundation of my own knowledge as a former immigration officer, as an immigration lawyer. And then the delivery is all because I'm a professionally trained teacher. I was a high school teacher before I went to law school. And I take all of that and blend it together. But that's not, even that alone is not the strength. That's the same as if you're hiring a regular lawyer or immigration consultant, right? But the power in the course, the power in the master classes is the crowdsourcing. It's when everybody jumps in, everybody shares information, everybody's searching for the answers when there are none. It was the same for the TR to PR pathway, and it was 100 times worse for this. At least with the TR to PR pathway, I didn't have to get up at 3:45 a.m. Mountain Time to be ready in case the portal opened. I could not take the chance that my one client, because I was helping them with the spouse and the children, and it worked perfect. I sat, watched while my client did the entries of the information. You guys are way faster typers than I am, but I was able to watch, and Igor was there too, watching as everything was entered in and submitted by the client. And yeah, it was just phenomenal. So, all right. Let's see if there's anything else. I'm going to avoid all the flattering comments. I appreciate all of the feedback. This stuff came at a really rough time for me. And I lost a close friend who passed away on the Thursday. And then I had Friday to kind of sort things out. Then Saturday, all day, I was waiting for instructions. I had to cancel some fun activities that I'd planned and with my family. And then Sunday, I just about missed one of the most important functions that we have in our church when our missionaries, and I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I'm a Mormon. One of the biggest events is when our young kids come back from their missions after serving away. And my nephew was coming back, and my own children were singing in that, and I just about missed it. I basically told them I wasn't going to be able to go. And fortunately, minister, I will give you credit for this, even though it was pain and suffering, because sometimes the door opens where one closes. Because you forced me to get up at 3, and because whether you intended to or not, your texts, maybe are your texts in Indonesia or somewhere? Are they not even in Canada? But whoever opened up the the IRCC portal at 3:25 or whatever it was a.m. East. Well, it was 6:25, I guess, Eastern time, if you guys want to focus on Eastern. It worked out. I was able to get the application submitted and make it to the church meeting at 9 a.m. Mountain time. So thank you for that, minister. Thank you for that. All right, let's see what else we have here. So yeah, it was rough. And so I'll pass on all of the gratitudes. I really appreciate everybody. Okay, let's even get to some more questions. Okay, this is a great one. Ram Kumar, any idea on PR guidelines for open work permit holders? I am going to do videos here that are going to teach you the various pathways that you go once you get your open work permit. So the transition, and looks like this is going to wrap up in 11 minutes, guys. Wow, I have a review with a client in 11 minutes. So I'm going to be doing a special video presentation, like right here on live, talking about the various PR pathways and how it works for you guys. So you can determine if Canada is even where you want to come. It depends on your circumstances, what options are available. But one thing I can tell you is that there are way more options in Canada. There's way more kindness and discretion in Canada than there ever is in the US. Okay, let's see here. And some of you may not have received your biometrics. Hang tight, just be patient, just wait. Go to your summary pages and take a look and make sure you didn't miss anything. If you haven't received biometrics, did you accidentally indicate that your spouse had already completed it? Okay. Okay, good. It looks like we've got someone who had problems. Shintapali says I had trouble submitting it, and now I was able to do it. Yeah, Ragav and everybody else, thank you so much. I'm so grateful that you had success with this. It's so many people, and I don't need to pull these up. You guys are just so awesome. Thank you. Let's see what else here. Okay, this one, SV, about payment. Change your credit card, get a friend to pay on your behalf. That's what you need to do. Thank you, Mark, for sharing that insight with SV. That is why this is so awesome. Everybody helping one another. Oh, this is awesome. Okay, let's see. Oh, okay, here we go. Here's a good one. So like I said about haters, okay? So he took a cheap shot that he finished at 6 a.m. How does it matter? It's still open. If 100,000 H-1B applicants apply with their dependents, Canada got richer by visa abuse. Okay, and you know what? There's haters everywhere, right? And I totally respect people's positions. This is one of the reasons why I wanted to have the minister come on, is so that he could actually talk about what's going on in the background, right? And for me, did I make money from creating the course and basically blocking off 2 weeks of my life and family and stuff like that to figure out what I could do and to teach? And absolutely I did. And I'm so grateful, and I don't take that lightly or for granted at all. But I also recognize that there are people, minister, like this individual who is so jaded, who is just not, just feels like everything is just out to get them. And my heart breaks for people like that, because people like, if I drop the minister off, people like Obed here, there's a reason that he's feeling this way. maybe had a bad experience with some other representative, and there's so many crappy ones out there. It's hard for him to recognize or even believe that I'm any different than all of them and not just some money grubbing lawyer. So I have nothing but compassion for people like Obaid. Nothing. It's so sad. Okay, let's see what else we have here. And I think I've addressed a lot of these questions, especially the ones I made a couple of mistakes. IRCC portal. Okay. And yes, thanks, Mohammed, for identifying this. Remember, in your biometric letter, it gives you 30 days. You guys are going to have a mad rush on all of the biometric collection points. The US has not seen this volume of applications coming to Canada in a long time in such a short period of time. So the biometric collection places are going to be the choke point. They're going to be the bottleneck. So remember, in your letter, if you cannot schedule an appointment within 30 days, there is an email. There's a place where you can indicate through, I think it's the IRCC web form, but just click on the link in your letter and you can indicate, please note, I've booked the earliest possible date. It's on this date. Please hold my application open until I can get those biometrics completed. Now, there's one other issue. If those of you who follow my Twitter feed will notice here, I want to share one other thing with you guys. Actually, give me a second. So I'm just going to send a text message. This is an express entry review that I have with a client. There's a lot of questions and I want to try to answer as many as I can. I'm just going to send a message to Prem here in my office to see if I could just push it off by 30 minutes here, and we'll stay a little bit longer. Just give me a second here. Prem, I love Teams for this. Could you please ask delay the start of our express entry review? And this is another thing that I love doing in the office, working hand in hand, one-on-one with people, just like my client. It's so much different than getting some assistant or some paralegal to work with you, and I never have any contact with you. That's how mistakes happen. But boy, when I work directly with my client, teach them what I know, and then support them as they file their own, I would put that up against anyone out there in terms of the process for helping people with their applications. Okay, I'm just going to put here until, okay, there. Great support within the firm. Okay, that hopefully will give me a little bit more time to try to get to some more questions here. Okay, let's see here. Oh, thank you. So you'll notice as well, there was no indication how much they were going to charge. And IRCC in the end ended up only charging the $155. They didn't charge the open work permit holder fee. So normally it would have been at least another $200 per family, another $100 for the open work permit. And so on the fee list, when I was giving advice and direction, I wanted people to bank on the fact that the current fees for work permits would apply. And this was an open work permit. So very, very grateful. That was nice, Minister, not to include that extra $100. Sonam says, hey, children, this is a big discussion we had in our group. Children that are minors, that are US citizens, do not need ETAs. They don't need visas to come to Canada. However, any school-age children, and, my client had a 7-year-old daughter, we still applied for a study permit so that when they came, all the family, they would all be able to apply together and have all their documents in the pre-approval letters, the port of entry letters. They would have all those ready for the border service officer. And I was a border service officer, and not all of them understand all the intricacies of immigration, let alone this crazy new open work permit. The majority of them won't even have heard of this. And so you'll be appearing at the port of entry and you'll have your letter, fortunately. So all they have to do is just pull up the information and print the work permit. But if you're an individual who didn't submit anything for their minor children that are US citizens, you can still have them come with you without the need for a visa. They can board on their US passport, they can travel to Canada, and then they can apply for a visitor record on entry for that child. But US citizens also have the ability to apply for a study permit at the port of entry. It's one of the rare exceptions to applying for a study permit outside of Canada. The US citizens can apply directly at the port of entry. So technically, even if you have a dependent child that's school age, you can ask the officer to issue them a study permit at the port of entry to accompany you on your open work permit. So that is possible. Okay. So if the child is an Indian national, for instance, then you need to apply for a visitor visa for them. And based on the instructions, once you get your approval, then you should be able to go through for your dependents. And I'll try to provide information on that as soon as we get, as the minister hopefully releases more info on how to do that process. Yeah, so Sonam, if there are 3 and they're not going to school, then it's just a visitor. But if you intend on them attending kindergarten or first grade, then at that stage, we always start right with the study permit. I actually, for my clients, Sonam, I actually advise them to consider starting with a study permit once the child was 4, because let's face it, the very next year, they're going to need to start school anyways, and then you'd have to apply for a study permit separately for them. So I tell them to just start with the study permit if they're kind of around the age of 4. Okay, lots of questions about the stamping and things like that. Let's see, and lots of people are stuck filling for a child. Okay, I want to point something else out, Minister. This is another huge issue. The way you have this structured, there's no real mechanism for applying for a study permit for a minor child to come with the principal applicant and the spouse without there being a UCI number for the principal applicant. So the study permit process, if you're applying for an open study permit for a child, the portal doesn't allow that UCI number should be optional, but in the forms, you have it as a mandatory requirement. And people who are applying direct don't have the ability to do that. So the only advice I could give my clients is to put in a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 number. And then in a letter of explanation, say, please note, the only way I could advance through the study permit process to include everybody as a group within our family was to create basically a random, I don't want to say fake, a random number that was put solely to allow me to advance to the next screen. So that's basically how we structured it. Okay. All right. Lots of people are asking about, is the cap reached? Yeah. And we're seeing a lot of inconsistencies, Jamia. And I think ultimately people are just going to have to monitor, and we're going to have to continue to crowdsource it and report back to IRCC. I'm going to continue to do videos like this. Yeah. And as far as all this kind of stuff, there's going to be a lot of glitches. There's like a ton of applications being submitted, right? Yep. Bhuvan, we talked about that. So that's great that you can see now they posted that it's just 155. Okay, good. My client's willing to join at 2. So we've got half an hour together more, guys, half an hour. Okay. Let's see what else we have here. People are asking about pending PRs. Would this jeopardize your PR? No, not at all. It will not jeopardize in any way, shape, or form. In fact, that's what Canada wants you to do. Unlike many applications, the officers, I'm not going to say they're instructed to find ways to refuse, but man, I can tell you, even in the context of study permits, like there are way too many study permits being issued to Canada. And so now the officers are looking for ways to reject them. And that's not the case for you guys, at least according to everything. Why would the minister appear at the collision conference and encourage all of you to come consider Canada as an option unless they were going to be kind? So minister, I want you to very, very clearly, please, please, please indicate to your officers, and I'm going to go back up here and just, let's see if I can find that statement here. I'm going to go back one more page. I'm just trying to find the statement where it says for processing, after you apply, let's see here. Okay. This statement right here, if it's incomplete, will refuse your application without processing it. Oh, sorry, minister. Let me move you over here so you can join me. We're buddies. We're friends. You know, it's all good. Oh, I can't do it. Oh, here, one second. Let's get him over here. We're all good. We're friends. We're friends here. Okay. So basically, actually, maybe minister, just if you don't mind, you're way bigger than me. You're up here. I'm at the back looking over your shoulder. You're really down, but you're really bigger than me, but I need to shrink you down just for a second, but keep you here. So this is for you. So if it's incomplete, we'll refuse your application without processing it. The instructions were terrible. The confusion, even though this is supposed to be a simplified process, was massive for people. So please be kind. These H-1B folks are the best of the best. They are right up there with the top people that we want to come and make our country great. That's not what I meant, but to make Canada awesome. So please, please be kind. Instruct your officers to be kind, okay? Because if they're not kind, I can promise you that I will fight for every single one of them. And I will use whatever legal means we have available to protect people because they did their very, very best with what you provided to them in terms of instructions. And even the limited instructions that are like, this wasn't even in existence, this policy, but in here, there was hardly anything and even less in the actual application. Here's another pro tip for you, Minister, at least a little point that I want to bring up. The reality is officers just make huge assumptions that things are easy for people to understand. As immigration lawyer, I've learned that you can never assume. And you know what happens when you assume, right? And the border officers, the visa officers sometimes just assume that things are transparent and easy to understand, and they're not. And I remember one consultant, and you guys can go to my Twitter page and see who it was. He said, these people are smart. And I actually had other lawyers tell me too, oh, these people are smart. They don't need help. They don't need guidance. My goodness. Like if these people are struggling, can you imagine what the average applicant is? So just take that under advisement. Thank you, Minister. Well, let's just slide away for a second before we bring you back if we need to. Okay. Oh my goodness. Ugh. It's warming up outside. It is warming up. Okay. Let's keep zipping down. We've got some more time. Let's see here. Okay. The port of entry letter is sent via email. So make sure that you're checking your email. Let's see what else here. Andy, good to see you, my friend. Good to see you. I hope you were successful with your clients. Okay. Let's see what else. And lots of people are saying they didn't get the biometric letter, so just hang tight. And I'm just scrolling through these. And lots of people are asking, I have a pending PR. You know, what would this impact be? Will it jeopardize? It's not going to. Okay, let's see. And lots of people are posting. I know you're posting a ton of these. I'm on an F1 to H-1B visa transfer. Went to India for stamping. What should I mention? The H-1B visa number. That's one of the areas. So you're going to put in a number. You're going to provide the explanation. You're going to upload your I-797. You're going to do everything that you can to explain that, right, Venkata? That's what you're going to do because you don't have it, right? And this is where I think IRCC had better be very accommodating with individuals, because to arbitrarily refuse because someone doesn't have the actual visa with the stamp in it, I think that runs afoul of the very general policy directive as well as the instructions. So I have to assume they're going to be generous. Minister, be generous with that, especially if they're in the US working on an actual valid H-1B status. And this is something that I just wish that there would be more collaboration with you guys, with actual practitioners who understand this stuff. Yeah, anyways, okay. Let's see what else we have here. Okay, Dion says, I did not apply because I didn't have my H-1B stamped. Should I still try to apply today? Heck yeah, Dion. If you can get in, do it. If you want to get fast track instructions, the course is still open. You can still connect with it. And lots of people are probably wondering, well, what is the course? Well, I don't think I have it linked in here. Let me just type it in. If you go to the Canadian Immigration Institute and you just click on here, this little link here, the course is accessible still right here. And if they haven't closed it, then you still have a shot. And so you can just go right in here, enroll, and then just jump right in. Man, if I showed you all of the comments, I probably have 100 here now. It's just, the people were so exceptional, so exceptional. Okay, let's keep zipping through here. Hey, this is a great question, Ishan. My wife is an international student in Canada, and I'm a valid H-1B visa holder in the US. Is she eligible for the spouse H-1B open work permit? Heck yeah, she is. Absolutely, 100%. That's a good way of fast tracking things. Now, understand, if she's an international student, there are some rules that have recently changed that may allow her to continue studying and get the open work permit. But in this case, Ishan, I recommend you book a consult with our firm. And I think some of you, I haven't mentioned this either. Yes, I'm an immigration lawyer, and yes, I have a law firm, and this is it right here. And all you have to do is, if you need help about anything, just click on speak to a lawyer. And no, I don't race to the bottom of my fees. It's expensive to hire myself, Alicia, Igor, my team. It is. And I make no excuses for that. But part of the reason is because of this, the free stuff that I give out. It takes time, and we're committed to making a difference. But yes, we consider ourselves the Law Society prevents me from saying anything. We consider ourselves to be experienced in immigration law. We'll leave it at that. Okay, let's see what else we have here. Okay, here's a great question, Mark. If my application gets rejected, does that affect my PR application in the future? It's very unlikely that it would, but it depends upon what the rejection is. If someone submitted an application and submitted a fake H-1B visa, like it was just a lie, fraudulent document, then yes, that misrepresentation and 5-year bar can absolutely undermine a PR application. But if there's some technical deficiency and the officer rejects it for being incomplete or something like that, no, I can't see a world where it would impact on your permanent residence. All right. You're welcome, Kafka. Thanks for monitoring the portal. I was able to submit around 7 a.m. Eastern time, but I've not received and that's the biometric instruction letter or the UCI, which I do understand the system is theoretically, it should be designed to handle all of this, but we saw the issue. So just hang tight. Let's see what else here. Man, you guys are submitting them faster than I can produce. Thanks for supporting videos. I've done mine, got biometric, triggered my spouse. I'm waiting for mine. Great. Let's see here. Any others? Okay, and this is the key here. So Parth says, my visa stamp expired last year. The actual visa, I entered that receipt. Well, just if you need to, include an IRCC web form and just say, hey, please note this is the situation. Okay, I think you did what you could do there, Parth. Let's see what else. Boy, I haven't even got to the question stage. Qwerty Boy says the valid visa stamp is in the old. Now I have a new passport. Which passport copy do I upload? Include them both. Okay, include them both. That's what I would do. I'm trying to skip through those who say they haven't received it yet because everybody's kind of in that situation. Oh, Chintapali says the error is gone now, just now. Hey, that's great. That's great. Let's see. How much funds are they looking for? They haven't said. There was no mention about a minimum amount. So just include your last 4 months bank statements. The fact that you guys are already in the US working in really good, high paying jobs, it's rare that they're going to have an issue with your funds to settle in Canada. Yes, Rajinder, this is absolutely, it's an open work permit to work for almost anywhere, almost any employer. The reason is some occupations require an immigration medical, but you can even get the medical done to remove those conditions. So, okay. Okay, so we've got a lot of people in similar situations to what I've talked about already. Okay, great question, Rex. It's not a dumb question. This might be dumb, but are parents considered family and included with this open work permit? No, they're not. As you can see from the instructions, spouse and dependent children. Here's a great question. Sai, my passport's expiring in 6 months. Shall I renew my passport first, which would take 4 weeks, and then apply, or apply right away? Apply right away. So basically, you need to apply right away. If you're talking about applying through the program before the 10,000 cap is met, like I'm curious to see if this 10,000 very quickly balloons up to like 20 or 30, because I see no mechanism in place to stop the flow. At least I'd be curious. And I don't know if anyone has shown anything that says, or a portal or anything that shows the tracking numbers. Like, I don't know why, Minister, you guys didn't do that. If you're going to close it off after people are spent hours submitting, and then when they get to the very end, they can't submit, that's going to be tough. Okay, let's see what's next here. Yeah, so you're going to apply right away. And those with passports that are expiring, understand, go and request the passport right away, because often there is time to request the new passport before you get instructions on uploading the passport. Now, with that being said, once again, I think IRCC is going to be kind. So if you have a passport that's expiring soon, They recognize that. And if there's no ability to extend beyond whatever they issue you in the beginning, I think it's only fair that you can request an extension of time to provide your passport and then provide a copy of the receipt showing that you have basically that you have applied to renew it and that it should come in just a couple of weeks. They should be able to hold it for you. Okay. And yep, Sonny, I know a lot of you may not have much funds in the bank, but I hope you just included it anyways. Let's see what else here. Okay, how do I provide the LOE? Is it in the web form you mentioned? I experienced the same and had to omit things to the education activities tab. So just to clarify, the IRCC web form right here, if we slide over, this has a section. Once you complete all the information here for the IRCC web form, at the bottom, when you say agree and then you click next, it will then give you the opportunity to upload the document there. All right, let's see. I'll pull up a few of these. Rashab, you're very welcome. He says, thanks, Mark, for all your guidance. It was thorough and very helpful. My question is, does the 3-year duration begin when the approval letter is issued or when you reach the port of entry? It should be when you reach the port of entry. Now, border officers can do anything they want to do, right? And so they could say, well, this was issued back in, a month ago, and so I'm only going to issue it for 2 years and 11 months. Well, some officers just get things wrong. And so that's possible, but every officer should be issuing it for the full 3 years. No problem, Siddharth. You're very welcome. He says, appreciate your efforts. Thank you so much for your insight. Got about 16 minutes left, and I'm trying to get through as many of these as I can. That's right. But without biometrics letter, we can't book appointments and it will cause delays, right? There's no one to contact too. Yeah, you can't book unless you have the biometric letter. Thank you, Dinesh. Many of the payments were blocked by the cards providers within US that were flagged as international fraud. I had to connect with the bank to let me through. Dinesh, I'm going to give you one of these. This is the kind of insight. That's pretty quiet. There's a little bit of a loud. They built up their clap. That's exactly the kind of thing that I love. That's great insight. Thank you so much. Okay, we've covered that. Let's see here. A lot of these are overlapping. Darshan says, thank you so much. You're very welcome. We've already covered that one. Visa holder, specific status. Okay, here's a good question. Manoj says, in the context of filing, being an H-1B visa holder, a specified status as worker, or I specified status as worker in the contact information section. Is that correct? You bet it is. You bet it is. And this is a good question. Manoj says, in my status as worker, what should I provide as immigration proof in document section? Well, this is a good question. What are you going to provide? We bundled everything together and put everything together in each spot. So your I-797, your H-1B visa. There was that letter as well, the one that you can print out that confirms your status. We included all of it because immigration status in this context isn't permanent status. It's just, and that's another misconception people thought, well, wait a minute, immigration status, I'm not a green card holder in the US. Well, immigration is just your temporary status as well. Toji biometrics, what is it? It's fingerprinting and iris scanning. And yeah, it's basically designed to track and make sure you are who you are. And then it's linked to your unique client identification number and your passport. So when you travel, they know exactly who you are, that they verified your identity. And only third parties like ASC and the VAC, in the US are authorized to do that, to collect those. I think I've answered a lot of your questions, you guys. I think we're going to be really good here because a lot of people are asking the same things. But make sure you subscribe to the channel so that you get notified the next time I go live, where I'm going to talk about now what, right? Now I've got my application in the queue. Where am I going to go from here? This was as much a message for the minister, and I really, really encourage the minister to come join me so that he can explain what's going on the applicant side. And minister, I can tell you, This would like go so far for people if they knew that you cared enough to explain why things turned out the way they did and why Canada is still the place to come. So I encourage you to join me, and it's pretty easy. Just reach out. Your department knows how to find me. Okay. Let's see here. What's next? Let's see. Just trying to see if there's anything else. Okay, this is just a continuation, Vina. I made a mistake in one of my college addresses. Can I update that college address after submission? Go ahead and do it. It's not going to be something that's fatal. But yeah, IRCC, anything you guys see, just send an IRCC web form to update it. Okay, Lokesh, how to add my dependent child. You'll have to wait till you get your approval. Then at that stage, hopefully they will give instructions on how to do that. Oh yes, here's another one too. Great question. Okay. While filling up the forms, there was a question that will you be traveling to Canada by air? Those who will be traveling by road, is there a different document process of traveling by road? That's a great question. And ultimately, when you come into Canada and you are seeking to board an airline or a plane, you need that visa to basically, you know, for the officers to, for the airplanes to recognize you can travel to Canada. But for all intents and purposes, when you're coming in, even through by land, you still need to show that you've got a visa to be able to enter. So, you know, I know if I think deeper about that, there's a reason, but I just told everybody to just apply by air. Okay, let's see. Is there anything else that I haven't missed? There's a lot of the same questions over and over about corrections, and thanks so much, you guys, for answering everybody's else. Let's see. Chintapali says, thank you very much. Your expertise videos helped me. I logged in, as you told, at 5:45 a.m. That's Eastern time, you guys. I'm unable to submit the application. I tried multiple attorneys. No one is able to help without having session. Well, yeah, you need to go in and actually see what's going on, Chintapali. Yeah, I'm not sure what the situation is. Like I've got to meet with a client at 2 today, and it's probably going to fill up, but you just have to play around with it. If ultimately it's the activity page you can advance, I'm sorry. This is one of the issues where, yeah, like there's lots of help and guidance in the course, Chintapali, and you know, if you can't find someone to help you, because I don't have capacity, I've got the full day after this. In 10 minutes, I've got to join my other client to do a review. Then I have a consult after that. And then I have to go over to I get to go over to my mother, my elderly mother, and help her remove this wire cage I put over her flowers to keep the deer away. Yeah, the deer are all throughout Lethbridge, Alberta, where I live. So I've got to go do that. And then there's something else that she needs me to do. And so my evening is occupied caring for my elderly mother. All right, let's see here. Let's see here. Is there anything else? A lot of these we've answered. So, okay. Saloni will pull this up. Any suggestions? Should I withdraw my application as I made a couple of mistakes in entering the information and document, or submit a new application? Please help me out. Do not submit a new application. You're far better. Well, to withdraw it is a nightmare. And IRCC and the minister, I know, does not want multiple applications. They don't want people taking up more than one spot. And they tend to punish people who do that. So it depends. I can't tell you what to do, Saloni. It depends on what the information is and what the documents that are missing. So I can't tell you. Okay, a lot of these are all repeats. Like as far as biometrics, when you'll receive the letter, you guys, that will just, there's no timeline on that. Some people received it instantaneously, especially the people, you know, like myself that had submitted right in the very, very first minutes. Okay, this is a great question, Abba. Do I need to fill separate forms for my dependents, wife, son, and daughter? They are now H4s. Yes, you do. Absolutely, 100%. So you need to have yours as one and theirs separately, and then group them together. That's what you need to do, Abba. If you have questions and you're still applying, then consider subscribing to the course, because the videos there will walk you through the process specifically for your situation. In fact, the tutorials that I did for how to fill out every section and how to work and fight your way through. And even the workarounds that I found to advance to the next level are in that course in modules, videos that you can watch. Okay, let's see here. Lots of questions about biometrics. Funds, we've already answered that. Yes, there were issues with education and experience section. Do you have an update? Not really. Like, it's just a mess, Karan. It's a mess. Okay, Jaz, he says, sadly, my passport expires next year, April. What are the extension choices for later? Can you get your passport renewed now? Go and see if you can get it renewed. Because if you can, then you can still use that before you get your passport request and then have it. So if you can, go and request a new one. Okay, what happens when 2 applications are submitted for one H-1B holder? I don't know, Swathi. Speaking from the past, and I've been at this about 20 years, there have been times where they've said, if you submit 2 applications, we will only accept the first and we will ignore the second. Other times I've seen them say that if you submit 2, we are going to cancel both. So I don't know, Swathi. Okay. Yes, Kiran, both husband and wife, my recommendation is they apply at the same time. Sakar says, hey, Mark, thank you for doing this. Are the visas going to be allotted first come, first serve? Yes. First in, first out. That's the policy with this. Okay, here's a great question, Christian. He says, how long will we have before having to arrive to Canada to receive the open work permit? Can we get the work permit and come back to the US and work, meaning having both H-1B and open work permit? Well, understand that any advice that I give cannot advise you on US immigration. So I can't speak anything towards the impact of applying for this on your US H-1B, but I think there's an invitation for an immigration attorney in the US to come join me. And I'm going to try to see if I can find one to talk about that. Because now that the frenzy is over, now we can talk about these things. But from a Canadian perspective, you'll have a certain period of time in the visa imprinted in your passport, and it may vary for when you actually have to come and obtain the work permit at the port of entry. But there will be an expiry date. So you'll have to come get the work permit. But the moment you have that work permit and that visa, they should probably enter a multiple entry visa. That's the one thing. I have to assume it's going to be multiple entry. As long as it's a multiple entry visa to Canada, then you're going to be able to come get the work permit. And if you need to go back, you'll be able to go back. And unlike the US, that open work permit will be open for 3 years till it expires. So when you're ready to come to Canada and start work, that, provided your visa in your passport is still valid, you'll be able to do that. Okay, Lokesh, maybe someone's answered. If your child is school age, then you'll use study permit. Okay. Let's see what else here. I think we're just about at the end, guys. I think we're going to wrap it up now. And thanks, Krishna. I love this. Wish everyone all the best. We're all in this together. Okay, I think we're just at the end. Is there anyone else? And if those of you who've tuned in late, there was a ton of really important information covered at the beginning of this video. And I always do that at the beginning. So you can always, as soon as I click stop here in a couple minutes, you're going to be able to go back in and watch it. Okay. Let's see. Is there anything else? We've got lots of repeat questions here. Okay. I think we've covered everything, guys. And I recommend that you go back, like I said, and watch it again, because if I'm skipping your question that you've posted, it was because it was asked and answered earlier. Okay, Parth says, your channel is the reason I was semi-prepared with information such as what time it would go live, which website to look out for, etc. Forever subscribed. Thank you, my friend. And let your friends know about it too. Okay. Okay, Akshay, let's see what your question is here. There's so many people posting that I did not submit the I-94 or any other proof of living in the US. What steps should I take? Did you submit a bank statement? But IRCC web portal, submit the things that they asked for. Like if you have, if you've got utility bill, do you have a driver's license? submit that. I-94, if you don't have, then use those, okay? Because it says other stuff. And let's see what else. Yeah, I think we're going to wrap it up there. All right. Thanks so much, guys. I really appreciate you connecting in. Hopefully this was helpful. And like I said, the journey has just begun. And with any luck, we can bring on this fine fellow here and he can answer some questions. That would be great, you know? And if you think that would be great, well, let him know. And you can tweet the minister too and tell him, come join Mark on his channel so that, you know, you can give us comfort in knowing that what we did was the right thing. Okay. Thanks. And thanks, Minister, for being here. He's a good sport. You know, IRCC at this stage hasn't sued me for, for bringing the minister on, which is great. I appreciate that. You know, I tend to be critical at times when I need to be, because there's lots within the system to be critical of. But I'll tell you, I am so grateful, you guys. I am so very grateful for what our immigration department has done. They've transformed Canada, and I know not everybody agrees with that, and that's fine. But the opportunities that are here have never been better. And those that are here that are stuck on, you know, postgrad work permits that have been extended and don't have pathways to permanent residence, yes, the government can do more for you guys. A CEC draw would be great. One that targets international students to help cull out all of the backlog because they're just not hitting the express entry level. Minister, that's something I'd encourage you to do. But I'm really proud of the government. I'm proud of what the department has done. And when it comes to immigration, I've got issues, you know, with other policies and things like that. And we all can't agree on everything. But generally speaking, I've been really pleased with what the government has done. But there's lots of work that still needs doing. And yeah, we'll leave it at that. All right, guys, thanks so much for joining. I will sign off now and go join my client.